I'm Steve Hay. Welcome to the wonderful world of woodworking. I've been asked to put together a series that covers all aspects of woodworking, from hand tools through to machines, through to some power tools, techniques, joints, tips, tricks, whatever else you want to call it. But for this first one, I thought we'll go back to basics. Very, very simple things that get people unstuck at the very onset. This is one of the hardest things that people find to do, and that is cutting a straight line. All you need to cut a straight line is a few basic tools. First off, we'll need a square, 90 degrees, a marking knife. That's a general purpose knife. If you want, there's a proper marking knife. It's got a flat edge on one side and a blade on the other. You can use that, or just an ordinary knife like that's fine as well. A pencil if you wish. And one of the easiest and most useful jigs you can ever make in a workshop is a bench hook. Bit of plywood, bit of rubbish, doesn't matter what you've got, and then two straight edges. And as you can see there, that's just been glued on and screwed, and the same there. The idea with these are they slip over your bench like that and give you a fence to work on. So that's what we'll have, and a saw, of course. Now, there are many, many saws out there. The two main teeth you'll find is a cross-cut saw, which is what they call a fleam cut, and a rip saw, which, as the name suggests, is a rip saw. That is a rip saw tooth, and this is a fleam cut. The fleam cut is used for cross-cutting, and I said before, the rip saw is for rip sawing. However, you can get a lot of good cross-cuts out of a rip saw. You can rip with a cross-cut saw, but it's not as easy. So I'll do these cuts with the rip saw. The majority of saws out there are rip saws. Whether you're talking about a back saw or a tenon saw, a gent saw, which is a basic dovetail saw, they are all rip saws. The other one, if you move into Japanese saws, you've got different teeth again. We'll cover that later. So the crosscut saw has its teeth sharpened at 60 degrees on each side of the tooth. And then when the teeth are set, that means separated, you actually get that razor point cutting the fibres and then cleaning out the swarf. Whereas with the rip saw, these teeth are filed at 90 degrees and they have what they call a chisel point, which knocks the fibre out. A fleam cut will give you a much cleaner cut, but a rip saw will give you just as good a cut. Not quite as good in quality, but it'll do the job. So we'll use a rip saw. Normally I'd use a back saw. This is a back saw or a tenon saw, but we'll do one with both. When I'm doing cross cut, I generally like about 12 TPI, which is 12 teeth to the inch. It gives me a reasonably clean cut. This back saw, I think, is about 14 TPI. So we'll have a look at the difference. Here's how you set up a cut. Put your square on the material. Now you can use a pencil if you like, and you can cut to that pencil line. But something I've found that is a lot easier to cut and a lot easier to follow is actually, if you get your knife, we'll use a marking knife, you put it on the line and then you mark a cut. Now you've actually cut a line where you want to cut. Get a chisel, run a score up on the waist side. If I wanted to keep this portion here, this would be the waist side. So what we'll do is I'll actually have this as a waist, and I'll run the chisel up on this side. Just like that. What that has given me is a lovely trench for the saw to sit in to start with, and it's given me a fence on this side for the saw to run on. You'll notice a couple of things when I'm using this saw, and I also have a plastic mat underneath, because then when I finish cutting, I don't score my bench and I don't ruin my blade. Keep your job hard against your bench hook and pretty close to the edge. Now, I guess there are different ways to saw. This is how I do mine. I just start to run it very slowly on an angle, and as I progress, I drop the saw down. Now, at this stage, I'm at the back, so I'm going to do a couple of cuts at the back. Now I'll just run straight. You'll notice with my hand, the finger is pointing in the direction I want to cut. And keep it as even as you can. Try not to go down on one angle or at the back. And just keep the saw perpendicular to the ground. There's no point in rushing it. Take your time. When you're nearly through, you just let the weight of the saw do the work. So I'm not pushing with this, I'm just going to let the saw do the work. Just a light touch, that way you won't get broken fibres at the bottom. And if you look at that, that's square that way, and we want to see if we're square this way. Come a little bit out that way. See, it's a little bit on a slope. A lot of that was because I'm using a long blade, it's hard to keep it dead straight. So let's try it again, this time only using a back saw or a tenon saw. Same again. Mark it with a knife. Using a back saw, this is a lot stiffer along the back. Coming to the end of the cut, let the weight of the saw do the job. Check for square. Okay, nice and square that way. And we're a lot squarer that way. The reason is I've got a stronger back. With this one here that was a little bit wonky, we can true that up using a block plane, and I'll talk about that in another episode. But just for now, the three things that stop people from being able to cut straight, the three T's: tools, technique, and thought. Out of the three, believe it or not, thought is the most important. Someone once said, I think it was Napoleon Hill, he said, whatever a man's mind can conceive and believe, he can achieve. If you're cutting, going, oh, I can't cut straight, you will never cut straight. So believe you can cut straight, take your time, don't rush. The other thing is tools. Make sure your saw's nice and sharp. It really helps to have a sharp saw. And technique. If you use that technique I just shared with you then, I guarantee whether it's a 6x4 sheet of plywood or just a piece of 4-inch timber or 100mm, 90mm, whatever that is, you'll be able to cut. I sincerely hope you enjoy your wonderful world of woodworking journey, and I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.